afternoon, and thank you for your availability and for always according us your time to engage. Ours is again a touch-based interview on the work of the political party you are leading, PDM, and other matters surrounding the party. So basically, I want to draw your attention to next year's PDM Congress. Are you standing for re-election?
Yes, according to the provision of the PDM Constitution, a person may not serve more than 3 consecutive terms. When we rebranded from DTA to PDM in 2017, there was a very strong contestation of whether we should have a term limit or not. Generally, all political parties across the world, especially when you are in opposition, there are no term limits. But I was very deliberate to say that the party must have a term limit, to a point where people wanted even to take back the years that I was president of DTA, to say that why doesn't your term start in 2017 because we have now rebranded into a new party. I said no. I'm the person who said no. That in keeping with the culture of democracy, let's have a term limit of no longer than three terms. Why 3 terms? It is informed by world experience of leaders. If you look at what Hakainde Hichilema did, Hakainde Hichilema has been a presidential candidate for 20 years before he became president. Lazarus Chakwera in the region was opposition leader for 15 years before he became president. Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana served 3 terms before he became president. So on that basis, we said it's not easy to build an opposition party. The only term limit that we can give to a leader is 3 terms. So it's a constitution. It is within the confines of the constitution. I personally do not intend to change the constitution to suit me. Otherwise, I'm seeing leaders in the regions that had constitutional limits that have now opened their constitutional limit. I'm going to comply to that constitutional limit. And as a leader who has also led a ferocious process of taking the old party from the ashes and brought it here, obviously in my 3rd term, I will also be preparing the party towards a clear succession plan going forward. Because I believe in building others, and there is no leader in this country besides the government that has produced so many young leaders to the fore for them to ultimately come and succeed. So in my 3rd term as a leader, going to my last term as a party leader, obviously I would want to do a proper transition so that we prepare the next leader in my 3rd term to take over the party. And I'm very elated to move into that direction. So to answer your question, yes, I'll be running for Congress to stabilize the party, take it to the election. And 2.5 years going to the next election, I shall be stepping down as a leader of the party and allow another person to take the party going forward.
Okay, so this whole issue around Venaani wants to amend the party constitution in order to extend his stay at the party is not true.
This is hogwash because I'm the leader. You see, I had the political capital when
especially at the change of the name, because there was this theory that says no, the term limits according to the PDM constitution is I think it's two. Okay.
3 terms.
So maybe that's where the misunderstanding lies.
No. Venaani has no interest. You see, the Congress, because of the trust that they had in me then, wanted to give me unlimited term. Okay. I initiated and I said, for us to create the democratic culture that we ought to create in organization, I don't want this party to be led by one person indefinitely. Let's have 3 terms. Let's build the thing. We don't know how far we are going to go in building it. Let's build in 3 terms. We give it to another leader. So all the positions were marked constitutionally that you may no longer serve in the same position for more than 3 terms.
Okay. Yeah, maybe let's also just address what appears to be the elephant in the room, according to us, the outsiders. How is your relationship with Honorable Muharukwa?
Honorable Maruka is a young leader of the party that I marvel, somebody that I brought up from the legal fraternity. He came in as a presidential nominee to the party, ran the ranks, became Secretary of International Relations, Chief Whip under my tutorship. So I do not have personal problems with leaders. I don't take politics personal. I don't have beef with people. Nor do I have beef with Honorable Maruka of any kind. And I'm one leader that marvels, and I've said it to you on a number of occasions, that I'm hearing he wants to challenge me, and I say I welcome and I'm thrilled to be challenged. I'm a Democrat. I fought for democracy in the older dispensation so that we have democracy. So I do not have a personal problem with Honorable Maruka of any kind, unless if it is, of course, of how we conduct the party affairs of the party. Obviously, he has his views about me, I have his views about him. But personal beef or hatred, I'm not a petty person. God has not made me like that. I'm just not a petty person.
But based on where your relationship was, then when you identified this person that you referred to as a young man, and now, would you say it has improved? It has,
Well,
or it remains.
It remains the same in a sense that when you are bringing people up, many young parliamentarians, you are also learning their characters, and you are also trying to teach them how politics is conducted going forward. So in the process of building and making sure that people take the necessary experience and taking the party forward, you would have pitfalls here and there, the conduct, character, but that does not mean that you have a problem with them. You are just preparing them for a better tomorrow. And I'm one of those leaders that would go down in history in this party as someone that brought leaders from nowhere. All these young people are people that are not even supposed to be here structurally. But I was very deliberate to say, if we want to make this movement a successful movement, let's try to get youth capital so that they take the party. Sometimes they are too fast. Sometimes, I was speaking one day to a member of parliament who has an experience technically of 1.5 years due to COVID. This person says, no, the president is afraid of me. I said, look, it's a good statement to make, but why would I be afraid of you? I would be marveling you to become a better person than myself. So young people, they come also with a lot of baggages because they are inexperienced. So you build them, we go forward.
Do they remind you of yourself?
Yes, I also made a fair number of mistakes.
Especially in the early 2000s when you first became an MP.
I made fair number of mistakes, and I tell them, learn from me. Don't repeat the mistakes I made, because you have someone to learn from. So sometimes when I'm guiding...
What are some of these mistakes?
Well, some of these mistakes, look, I was very popular in the party at a very early age because I became a Secretary General. I was popular at the grassroots. I contested Kaura too early, very early. But even the gap between me and Kaura was very insignificant. It was 16 votes different. But with hindsight, I've learned that I shouldn't have done it. There were people pushing me, pushing their agendas, and I allowed myself, but it was premature. And I've learned from that pushing. I kept silent for a period of more than 10 years because I learned my mistake. So as a young person, you see, I think it's Trotsky who says, if you are not radical before 30, you are dead. But if you remain radical after 30, you are a wrong man. So when you are young and your blood is really boiling, you want to do things much faster. But when you're growing older, with hindsight, you're trying to realize that institutions are not built easily. The other day I was having a conversation with the Prime Minister of the country, and I asked him, Mr. Prime Minister, you have been Prime Minister for so long, you come back. Is it true that your party does not have a replacement for you? And he says, young man, there could be many replacements for me, but to find a leader who can be able to articulate a policy is not an easy thing. So when you look at the historic processes of leaders, how they are made, they don't come at one go. Look at Angela Merkel. Angela Merkel was 12 years the leader of opposition. She was 15 years the chancellor. I asked her this same question when I met her, that why is the German process so long? Why do you keep leaders so long? So people are saying, if you do not assume power easily, you must continue to persist. If you just give up, like Amushelelo was saying the other day, and in fact I wanted to call him and say, Amushelelo says, no, I'm tired of fighting for you. He has only fought for a year or something, but he's already tired. Politics is not a thing of 1 or 2 years. You need that political persistency and consistency for one day to ultimately achieve. And if you really want to become president one day of this country, you can't just say I've tried 2 terms and therefore. If I've tried 3 terms, I would know I've done my part, and other people can come and do their part.
Yeah, when you look at PDM, of course, you mentioned the fact that some of these people that are currently in the current structures of the PDM, some of them members of parliament, are not even supposed to be there. What in terms of are you grooming enough leaders as a party?
Well, there is no.
Is it something, perhaps if Venaani is not here, let's say, if you are no longer here, would you say you would have left the party in good hands?
Well, that is the main aim. I had to convince strong Democrats of the party that has longer credentials to stand aside to give young people a chance. And I did it deliberately to make sure that when I go, whether I die today, whether I leave politics in 3 years or 2 years or 5 years or 6 years, if I leave, there is a crop of young leaders that ought to emerge to become strong leaders of the party. What I am avoiding at this point in time, and you must understand that I'm a very experienced person to understand the diplomacy. There are people that want me to anoint them as their possible successor. I'm saying by doing that, I'm going to limit the right of potential of others to grow. There are a crop of 3 leaders at this point in time that I've identified. Personally, that I think these people, given the necessary political training and backing, they would be able to emerge as leaders. But all of them, each one wants to say, the president must favor me for me to look. Of course, jostling and wanting position is normal in the political culture. And perhaps I'm also making mistakes that they see that they want to improve the party. And that is good for a democratic culture in the party. So I marvel and welcome any competition in the party. And I'm not even working against, these whole things of people campaigning have started so early, even unprocedurally. WhatsApp groups are created, future president of PDM. I know these things. And when people come and report them to me, I said, that is a functioning party. That's a democracy. Let those people continue doing that because they are trying something for the betterment. Perhaps out of what they are trying, a new party would emerge and a bigger party would emerge and a stronger party.
Okay, maybe I asked you this question in the previous interview, but I will ask it again. The issue of succession, and especially when a party holds its congress in an election year, and congresses in their nature are divisive events. Yeah, so again, how is PDM obviously looking at next year going into an election? So basically PDM is going for 2 elections, the Congress internally and then nationally. How are you managing that process? Of course, now you are saying WhatsApp groups have already started. Some people have started their campaigns very early.
Well, you see, every leader must be able to manage, and every leadership must be able to manage its affairs. Congress are vital tools for democratic revival, for policy reorientation. They are good for democracy, and we have to go through a Congress. But we must avoid an SQ to play dirty. One thing that I am really saying, even people that are supporting me, I'm saying, let's not indulge in politics that demean each other, because we are all members of one movement called the Popular Democratic Movement. So we are managing this process with kid gloves to say, let those that wants to campaign and vibe opposition be allowed to do so in their democratic space. All we want to avoid is mudslinging, character assassination, torpedoing one another here and there. While we are jostling, let's try to do it in the manner and fashion that we keep the cohesion of the party. That is why we also want to avoid what you call slate politics. But if you want to become Secretary General, you don't need to be a Venaani candidate for Secretary General. You can be a Secretary General on your own. It's not an easy process, but we have already managed it last time. 2019, we had a Congress before an election and it went smooth. This one, I hope it will also go smooth.
Okay, maybe just as a by the way comment or question, in what state is the party's youth league?
The youth league at this point in time has been disbanded. The leadership has been disbanded primarily because there were fights. People were fighting one another. The national executive and the management of the party said beginning this year they are going to prepare for a new Congress. The Elders Council will also go to Congress and the Women's League. So the state of the Youth League is that the leadership...
So it's dead?
It's not dead. The leadership is disbanded. Of course, the structures remain, but we are going to put an interim committee to prepare for Congress going forward. And these are not new things. Look at the ANC. ANC went to its Congress without a Youth League, the last Congress, because their Congress, the Youth League Congress, was not ready. So these are all teething problems of organizations going forward.
Okay. Maybe let's delve into the finances of the PDM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, of course, a few years ago, we reported, of course, that the party was using some of its earnings from Parliament to repay loans, and among those who were being repaid these loans was you. How far is this process? Has everybody been repaid?
Well, no, we still owe some one or two leaders where negotiations are going slow. I was repaid. You must remember that I was repaid after 5 years, and my money was fully repaid.
How much is the money? How much was it?
Well, I tell you that the PDM is an open party. We have just gotten an unqualified audited financial statement. It shall be released. You shall see the figures right there. The state of the party's finances are excellent. For the last years, for the last 3 years, this party has not run on any overdraft. We are running on our own savings. We are running this party from a very strong balance sheet. We have here and there problems. You know that we are also paying former members of parliament. Mm-hmm. We have a retention policy that we are going to review very soon, looking at what they are going to do now going to the elections. But these are all matters meant to keep cohesion in the party so that the new, the old, remain firm in an organization. But if you have to ask me what PDM's financial position was when I took it in 2014, and now, there is a lot of improvement. We have not run for the last 4 years in an overdraft. We have not loaned money from any leader. We have not done anything. It's because our finances are in a very, very good shape. In fact, we have extended that we are also doing some economic activities even outside the realm of the parties, just to make sure that we prepare ourselves better for the election. So the conditions of PDM resources is good. For the first time under my watch, the regional coordinators are receiving salaries. They have vehicles. When I took this party, we had only one vehicle. Today we are boasting with more than 45 vehicles. So we have really done a lot of work in terms of expanding the economic network of the party to improve where it is needed most. At this point in time, we are also revitalizing, buying offices around the country, repainting, re-energizing that economic climate of the party to strengthen it for the elections. So our finances are in order. You can see from our books, we are not a party running from a minus. Our resources are prudently managed, and we are going forward.
Yeah. Maybe when you say this party, basically you got the party from the ashes. What do you mean when you say that?
Well, the party was a 1% party, 1.8%. Today it is 16%. The party was on the doldrums of extinction. They didn't have resources. They didn't have enough resources to fight for an effective campaign. It was not the official opposition. We brought it back to become the official opposition. So the party was really going for extinction. So we took it from the ashes. We made huge sacrifices. Took us time to build it, organize it. Many people that really suffered with us are in their graves. Some went to other parties due to disagreements here and there. But it was a marvelous process of really commitment, hard work, to build the party from 1.8% to 17.5%. And that's a record that no other leader has ever achieved. See, if you look at the days of DTA, Muyongo at 89 had 26%, and then when Kaura left the party, it was at 1.8%. So the party was on a nosedive. Now we have really started to build it up. So
is it a pace that you can keep? Can you keep growing? Because obviously there are those who say no. This astronomical growth of PDM from 5 seats in 2014 to 16 in 2020 is credited. Some people say to the independent candidate phenomena of Dr. Itula.
okay, look, any growth has done. Any political environment is influenced by its dynamics. We grew it from 1.8% to 5.6%. Itula was not there. We became the official opposition without Itula. So yes, maintaining that growth will depend on the political dynamics of tomorrow. In the next 7 months, after 7 months, you must ask me this question: how will this party fare? I will be able to tell you the mood of the country. But it all depends on the work that we put, both at the National Assembly level, both at the level of at the regional level, both at national level. And you are seeing me. I'm sure you are seeing how busy I have already started for the last 2 years. I'm on the field every weekend, and the party leadership now is going down to the southern regions, eastern part of the country. Erongo is launching its the political calendar here, Chombinde constituency. There's a hive of activities, 2 years. It's the first time in our history that for a period of 2.5 years before an election, our cars are already branded. So we are preparing for a great fight to come.
Perhaps the benefits of the office of the official opposition, especially the vehicle and the assistants and additional staff and all these other things, how have they also helped in obviously executing your work as an office?
Well, I think it has helped a great deal, because for a period, I took this vehicle probably 6 months ago. The second in 2014 double cab. But it has more than 60,000 kilometers on the clock. So if you look at that, it makes me be present at critical centers of the country. And that's what an official opposition ought to do. If there is a crisis in Ohangwena, if there's a crisis in the regions, you must be there to be able to observe, to be able to critically analyze what is happening. So I think those tools are very necessary in a democracy. And I can agree with you that if I look at my personal vehicles, I bought a Land Cruiser in 2018. My Land Cruiser has 240,000 kilometers just with party work. My Mercedes is probably another 240,000. I used 2 cars because I wanted to limit the kilometers usage. Now, if you look at this car, the government garage people are always asking me, "Oh, Honorable Venaani, your car is always on a service," because I tell them that I do my work. I am always around the country and talking to people, asking what they are doing, and really.
But some people criticized you for accepting this vehicle.
Well, those that were criticizing me do not really know the development of Commonwealth parliamentary system. If the countries such as our neighbors, Botswana, Malawi, Angola has just implemented, Kenya, the whole of Africa, all opposition party leaders, because you are being perceived as the shadow leader of the country, goes under a certain amount of protection. It's a level that you achieve in life. That is why every time the president speaks and he sees me, the leader of the official, it's because you hold a particular office. I didn't get a car because I didn't have a car. I got a car because I have a particular function to hold government to account. And that is to hold government to account, I need resources. In fact, if you look at the resources of the opposition leader of Uganda and comparing to Namibia, a parliamentary opposition leader of Uganda, they have more resources, researchers, and so forth. And even other parties in Kenya, even minority party leaders have access to government vehicles in that country in order to promote democracy. So those that says, Venaani likes the luxury, it's not even a luxury, because the car that I got is not even a car that I cannot even own, I afford. But in Namibia, there's this thinking. When you are eating a cake with President Kaingo, people think that the two of you are eating the country, but it's just a cake that you are cutting. So the thinking is there, and I understand why society think like that. It's because of a rampant poverty that we have. The people would think that because you are eating cake, therefore you are eating with Kaingo. But I've never gotten a fish rotunda or whatever of billions of dollars that people are eating in this country. So yes, those that are critiquing do not know the terrain. In India, In 1972, they promulgated a law of the leader of the official opposition. In India, there is a residence of a leader of opposition. If you go to Canada, there is a house called a share house, a state house for the leader of the official opposition. I'm not saying these things should happen here because of our country's economic situation, but there must be a certain room of support to be able to make the office function.
Okay, yeah, maybe let's go back to last year. The issue that involved your councillor, Mr. Kachaimo. Perhaps what is latest regarding this? Obviously, party instituted its own internal measures.
Yes. I can only say that I've heard from the chairman that if I'm speaking under correction, 3 disciplinary hearings were conducted. We are yet to receive their findings. So it's a matter that is receiving our utmost attention in terms of disciplinary processes and that we instituted. I've received report that they have met 3 times, but of course I do not have the right nor permission to be able to delve into the outcome. So we would be waiting for that panel to conclude its work, and then we can direct the way forward.
Has it affected the party brand in any way, shape or form?
Well, any person who is involved in a controversial matter do in one or the other way affect the party, because it's not good, even if leaders of parties are fighting in the media, it's not good if a member of a party is accused that he has done A, B, C, D. So people should eschew away from those controversies, because they don't build the party, they take lesser from the brand. So that's why we took action to say that let's listen to what has happened, let's get the material facts. There are rumors, I don't know whether they are confirmed, that he has recovered close to 4 million of this money. But anyway, let the institute deal with the matter fairly and judiciously, and then the party will take it up from there. But generally, any person who does wrong or who does something that is controversial taints the brand of the party, and that is not good.
Okay, maybe in line with that, the issue of your MPs who had to be withdrawn maybe 2 years later, how has that also impacted the brand of the party?
No. Well, I'm very glad that the court in its ruling, the Supreme Court in its ruling, said PDM conduct in this matter was not mischievous. The court said any institution that was confronted with that situation would have dealt it the manner in which the PDM has dealt with it. So that really exonerated us, because what we did is that the first list that we submitted is the second one that we resubmitted. The court just said that your interpretation of Schedule 4, subsection 4 is technically wrong, and the ECN shouldn't have allowed you to bring the earlier list. So it's not a situation of a list that we amended halfway. It was the original list, the list that the ECN deducted the names, and then the rule says after election you must submit a list. So we were not mischievous, and that is why our new MPs could not claim salaries and services from 21 March 2020, because the court said because you were not members of parliament, because your party did not act mischievously, we will not be able to grant you that. But it has impacted the party in a way that people felt as if there was foul play in the organization. So because of the explanations that we gave throughout the whole country, I think the members understood us. And because all members are members of one party, because I said, to me, I played a critical role in making sure that more and more parliamentarians get to the list, young women, all these people, even Jermaine, these are people that were personally nominated by me on a presidential list. So there was no way that I favored a group or I didn't favor a group. I wanted to act in the interest of the mandate of the Central Committee, but of course our interpretation of the law was wrong. It has had a negative effect on the party, but in the fight for democracy, parties go through these motions and you learn from it, it strengthens the party. And now that we're busy doing is to build cohesion among party members going forward.
But this thing still remains a thorn in the flesh. The constitution remains the same, and it affects not only PDM, but it affects, it's cross-cutting across the political divide. And the fact that, I mean, you normally use the example of saying a civil servant may not participate, may not be on a parliamentary list, but a private employee can be on on this parliamentary list based on the current provisions of the law. So,
Well, I think,
what has been done to actually amend that specific provision?
well, you see, we have been talking to parties across the aisle on this matter. What we're realizing is that the ruling party wants to limit opposition civil servants not to participate in politics because they can afford to take the risk of having 40 seats because they already have more than 58 seats. So we have been talking to them that perhaps this matter should go to review. But if I start spending money on reviewing this law in the party, initiating that process, you would find people saying that, he doesn't want these ones, therefore he wants to open up. But there is a need for the country to really look at it, because you as a journalist working for Nampa or Nuera, you would be forced to resign, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to say, resign just because you are a candidate while you have not assumed an office. And that argument is cross-cutting because I think Dr. Itula is also propelling an argument saying, if you are running for a presidential candidate, you cannot run for a parliamentary seat. But that argument dovetails both of them because you can run for both. But if you are elected for one, you cannot be in the other one. The same with the vice president. The law says for you to assume the vice presidency of the country, you must be a member of parliament. But the minute that you assume that you're elected as vice president, you vacate the seat because it is construed that you can no longer serve in the National Assembly. So I think that law needs to be fixed. But I must tell you one thing, that our judiciary has not been criticized enough. It's archaic and very slow to arrive at that. But I think political parties, Honorable Dienda has worked on a motion to really get this law amended because it is going to negatively impact future civil servants that wants to enter the political terrain.
Wait, maybe my last question is your analysis of the state of affairs in the city of Windhoek.
I think it's a very important question that you're asking. My analysis is that political leaders are playing ostrich politics with the lives of our people. There is no reason that all parties that are elected in the council of Windhoek must meet as quickly as possible to resolve the impasse of electing a functional management committee. The ruling party wants to dominate. The opposition wants a balanced council. But surely SWAPO should realize that they can't go ahead with their proposal. The opposition should realize that they also can't go with their proposal alone. So we need to come together as political leaders, because it really worries me that politicians that ought to know what is at stake in the lives of our people. There's already a crisis at the city council because of what do you call these temporary workers striking and dumping rubbish in the streets, but yet we cannot form a functional management council. To this end, I have written a letter to all political heads, not Secretary General, to all political heads, including President Kaingo, to ask for a round to really unlock this impasse, because it is bad for governance in the country, it is bad for the capital that cannot form leadership, and nobody can blame the other one or the other. All of us are in this thing, we are wrong, we are acting wrongly, and we must find a government that should govern the City Council of Windhoek. Now, the argument is always, in an event that all political parties do not arrive at 50+1, perhaps the president is elected, but in forming a National Assembly, no party has 50+1, you would be forced to form a government. Now, the City of Windhoek is forcing partners that would ordinarily not like to work together in the interest of the people. So I believe that all these party leaders, Itula, Venaani, Mwinyangwe, Hage Kaingo, Bernard Swartboy, Jopa Mopanda, all of us must sit around the table and unlock this impasse.
Yeah, but now, Honorable Venaani, you are one of those proponents of a possible coalition government next year, at next year's elections. Looking at the the affairs of Windhoek again, where I would say opposition parties dominate that council with 10 seats, while the ruling party only has 5. And yet the opposition can seemingly not just work together. Does this then make your dream perhaps a pipe dream?
I tell you, Mumbu, you should ask me this question going forward. There's not going to be any government from the opposition if the opposition parties don't work together. The opposition has not realized the power that it has at this point in time. And it is influenced by a number of factors. We have some party leaders that do not have the necessary political experience. But going forward, if we do not cooperate and work together, we will not deliver a government against swap. So even the opposition itself in the councils, let's bygones be bygones, differences be differences. We can't afford to do what we are doing to the residents of Windhoek, because that is a betrayal of trust. And I'm saying, SWAPO, opposition, everyone, let's sit around the table and unlock the impasse. That's the job of leaders, to unlock impasses.
Mr. Venaani, thank you very much for your time.
Gracias.